What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Merge Tactics video. Today I'm going to be talking about modifiers. Modifiers have been in the game since the release. They've been a very interesting aspect to the game. There have been, dozens of modifiers, several new ones come in every season, even midway through the season, like halfway through season 2. When Lung was released, there were some new modifiers that came out there as well. But I always have felt that there's so much more they could do and with modifiers and kind of take them to the next level. I've always felt like they haven't exactly had the system down to what it could be capable of. And, they could add a lot more to the game, as well as take away some aspects of the game that are very, very frustrating to play with. And so there are a few things I want to talk about in today's video. The first thing is going to be specific issues that I see with modifiers. The second thing is going to be what I love about the modifiers and what they add to the game, specific modifiers that I love. And the third topic is going to be how I think they can change modifiers going forward to make the game all around a better experience to play. So to start with, what modifiers do I not enjoy? And what do I not enjoy about specific modifiers? So for those of you who have played for a while, you will remember some modifiers from season 1. For example, the one that gave you plus hit speed and HP for having less than the max number of units on the board. That was a modifier that I remember clearly because nobody ever did it. It was a completely useless modifier that added nothing to the game experience because people just didn't do it because it was always better to have another unit on the board in every scenario. And that is one category of modifiers that I think really don't add anything to the game. The modifier like that, there were some troop, some team size modifiers in the beginning of the season, the beginning of the game, and I'm glad they removed those. Other modifiers, like one that's in the game right now, endurance trading, all troops gain plus 40% HP, just so stuff like that. There are a few others that have come and gone throughout the seasons, but those modifiers are useless in my opinion because they don't affect gameplay. So everybody has plus 40% HP, so everybody's playing on the same level. And some people have said, yeah, like, the bonus HP allows games to go on longer, so Rangers, can speed up, and it affects that in a way. But I really don't feel like that changes much. I really feel like modifiers like that don't add anything to the gameplay experience, don't make it more engaging, don't change your strategy at all. And so it is not super enjoyable to play with what I would call the useless modifiers that don't really affect anything. Another class of modifiers that I really dislike this season are the building modifiers. Now, not because they're not fun to play, but because, they don't add anything to the game, and they're more of that, everybody has the building. And in some cases, some people's buildings are going to give them a ton of value. In some cases, they're not going to get any value. They don't really add anything to the gameplay experience. You just kind of drop it there. And then as the game goes on, if it helps you, great. If it doesn't, whatever. Some people use them to tank. Some people will always put them in the back, stuff like that. And I just don't feel like it really engages the player. Because the reason we want modifiers is to make the games different, make them exciting, and make them, have a different spin each time you play a new game because you're going to have a new modifier. And that's what I really like about them. But I feel like the building modifiers really miss the mark there. Another class of modifiers that I really dislike are the very RNG heavy modifiers. Now, you'll who played last season will remember Chaos, and I actually loved that one because it was so crazy and so much fun to play. But there are some other RNG modifiers that are not nearly as fun to play. The mystery shop is one that comes to mind. Just because you leave it up completely to chance whether you buy 4 2 costs in a row that you're never going to use, or whether you buy 4 Archer Queens in a row for 3 elixir each time, and now after 12 elixir you have a 3-star Archer Queen. Those are just some that I don't really love. Other random ones, the tile. I really don't like the speed tile one. Last season it was better because it moved around every single time, but now here it's much worse because it stays on the same one every single round. And if somebody gets it in their back line, that's a huge advantage over somebody having it in the front line because you want your extra hit speed to be on a ranged troop is going to do a lot of damage. And if somebody has it on the front line, it's not going to be nearly as valuable to someone who has it on the back line. And so just aspects like that where they're just completely giving huge advantages to some players, and others are left with a disadvantage due to the modifier, which of course is something that they can't help. So it is an entirely RNG based situation, which can result in losing a lot of games, which is very frustrating because it's obviously nothing you could do. There have been others throughout the game that are, in similar veins, just they don't add, they don't benefit skill, and they really just leave it up to chance. I mean, even stuff like, the ones that give you starting troops. If you get say you get a 2-star 4 cost, somebody could get a goblin machine, which, there's an argument to be made for that. That wasn't a good example. What's a witch? Now witch is pretty bad. Not gonna lie, witch is pretty bad. Somebody gets a 4-star witch. Somebody else over here gets a 4-star. Maybe goblin machine is a pretty good one now because brutalists are honestly not horrible. And there you just have that huge disadvantage because now, I mean, especially Goblin Machine because you get goblins early on. And just the difference in RNG there. Now, that's not a huge one. I don't think those need to be taken out of the game. It's just another example of modifiers that aren't fair to every single player because some will have more advantages over others because they got cards that help them more, benefit their team, allow them to get higher stars quicker. So those are a few that I don't really love. Mainly the ones that don't add anything to the game because Merge Tactics is an exciting game. It's a strategy game. You want to think while you play. You want to change your strategies based on the modifiers you encounter. And there are a lot of modifiers that don't actually provide that. Another reason, I mean, I'm just not a huge fan of the ones that give you cards to start because it doesn't affect the course of gameplay. There are some really, really fun ones that I really loved and would really like to see back. First one free, the one where it's you get +2 elixir every round. There was one where there's always one card randomly discounted in the shop. The ones that benefit the merging and the shop aspect of the game, which there are very, very little of those this season. I absolutely love to see the 4-star modifier come back, but I've played all the way up to 2,800 trophies now, and I've only seen it twice. And so there's a lot of there's not a lot of consistency, how many modifiers are used. I feel like Master Arena is still every other game, like it was like last season. It felt like Master Arena was every other game, and I'm gonna get more about choosing modifiers later. But hopefully, that just gives you a good idea of modifiers that I dislike. Let me know in the comments if you agree. What other modifiers you dislike? Now, modifiers I love. I already mentioned the the 4 stars modifier. My favorite modifier, probably just because it allows you to get 4 stars on any troop, and it just brings you to another aspect of the game that's super fun. And another one that we took out that I really wish we would have back was Echo Bench. Promotion is another one I loved. They let you get 4 stars. They really benefited smart, foresight with the game, knowing when to play your higher star cards, when to put them on the Echo Bench to get bonus stuff. It just allows you to have another aspect of strategy and skill that you can express by using the modifier. Same thing with the elixir generation modifiers. First one free is definitely one of those. Lucky discount is another one of those that gives you a lot more chances to cycle. Obviously, those benefit Spirit Empress greatly, but they can really benefit the rest of the rulers. Getting, a free Archer Queen, and honestly, in hindsight, they may benefit, the rulers that struggle to generate elixir more. They can buy a free 5 elixir card, whereas with Spirit Empress, you just gotta, cycle some things back into the deck and generate enough elixir to go and buy what you want. But it does help with elixir generation for the weaker elixir generating rulers. It just makes it so much more engaging to play, and you got to be paying attention in your cycle. It adds another layer to the game that I think we're kind of lacking this season. I mean, I'm looking at the modifier list right now. There are 5 building modifiers, 3 card modifiers that give you cards at the start of the game. And so right away you have 8 modifiers of the total 18 that you have no control over. It just gives you something at the start of the game and says, there you go. You also have, the mystery shop, which doesn't change. It can kind of change the way you play. Last stand is nothing that affects the way you play as a player. One punch can kind of affect some things. Master Arena definitely does affect the way you play. Swift Tile does affect the way you play. Endurance training doesn't affect the way you play. Coaching does affect the way you play. But overall, half of the modifiers don't give you any kind of, difference or change in the way you actually play the game. And I think that's what we're really missing from the modifiers this season. That's what I really, really love to see. Other ones I really enjoy are the ones that, Clear Mind is another that I really enjoy. Like I said, I loved Chaos. That was a really fun one. I do like, the ones that give you, what am I thinking? It wasn't where they give you stars to start, but they give you extra bonus elixir at the beginning of the round or something like that. just ones that help you get an extra start in the game, make those early rounds easier for some cases where, because the early round is so important. Some people can get goblins immediately. A Spirit Empress player gets 2 goblins at 2 stars right away, and then somebody else gets a 5-cost shop to start the game. Those are, the early game is so important. And so having some modifiers that benefit players in the early game would be great. And I absolutely love some modifiers like that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is how Supercell can change the way modifiers work going forward. I'm a diamond player, and because of the the lack of there being ranked badges and just my lack of time, free time to play the game over the last few months, I haven't grinded to the top of the leaderboard in season 2 like I did in season 1, but I do really enjoy playing at a high competitive level in the game. And I think that there's a different approach to the game that high level players take as opposed to the majority of the player base. And so I think there's a way for the high level players to have a different experience with modifiers than the rest of the players do. I would propose that once you reach diamond, the level of, or the modifier pool completely changes. I think it'd be interesting to have a lot more modifiers in the game. We could have 50 modifiers in the game, and then say there's 10 leagues. Well, there's five modifiers broken down league by league. So, for the first league, you have the 5 building modifiers. And while you're climbing through there, you get to play with the 5 buildings. The next league, you have the bonus troop modifiers. And you can mix and match them in between. But my main point is, once you get to diamond, I would love it if the modifiers would be limited. And maybe it's this way. Maybe you have all the modifiers unlocked from diamond and below. But then once you get to diamond, you have only a certain number of modifiers unlocked. And those would be the ones that really benefit the way you play the game. Things like Clear Mind, things like, it's hard to even find some that really matter this season. Coaching is one that's definitely a skill-based modifier, One Punch, those modifiers, and the other ones that I mentioned that I would love to see come back, that benefit cycling, that benefit skilled gameplay. Those would be the ones that I'd want to see in Diamond, because there you don't want to get messed up by RNG when you're going up against highly competitive opponents, and you can't afford to have, RNG mess you up in a round where you have a 5-cost shop is not what we're talking about today, but where you have, a really bad card that they give you or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Where RNG can mess you up, and, the mystery shop that can really be annoying to play into. So I think that is one way they could do it, is by having a certain set of modifiers that you unlock from diamond and above. And maybe that comes with a change of the leagues. Maybe they raise the cap for diamond just to give, there more time for players who aren't into the competitive scene to climb, even though they might be pretty good. And another way that they could do that is by allowing players to vote on the modifiers. I think that would be huge. Now, there's 4 players in the game, and so if 3 modifiers were given to the players, with all 4 players voting, granted that there wasn't a tie where 2 vote for one and 2 vote for another, there would always be a 1, 1, and 2. And of course, you would have to skip the voting, so sometimes players wouldn't vote and stuff like that, but they could always do it. And then if it's a tie, it just picks randomly between the 2 with the most votes. I think that would be very, very good for the game. I think it would be exceptional for the game. I think it would result in a lot of modifiers never being played. And let me preface this by saying, I think you should be able to vote on the modifiers once you get to diamond. I think from 0 to 3,000 trophies, you should just take the modifiers they give you. But I think once you get to diamond, you should unlock that aspect to be able to vote for modifiers. Number one, because you've played the game for a long time, you obviously know what the modifiers do, and you just want the ones that make your gameplay experience better. And number 2, it allows the top level skill-based competitive players to kind of do their best to eliminate unnecessary RNG aspects from their games. And so if you get to 3,000 trophies, the round would start out, the game would present you with 3 modifiers, you vote on, or 3, whatever number, it doesn't matter, especially if you randomize between ties, it could be 5 for all I care. But 3 just seems like the best number to do it. It presents you with 3 modifiers, or even 2, and all the players vote, give them 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds to vote on the modifier. Once they pick the modifier, if there's a tie, it's randomly selected. If not, the one with the most votes gets chosen, and then the game continues to go on. I don't know what that would look like on the back end with the coding side, and I'm sure they've thought about this and might even be working towards it currently, but I think that would be huge for the competitive players in Merge Tactics, and just any player in Diamond. They've put in the time to grind, and unfortunately, we still have to grind all 3,000 trophies every single season to get up to Diamond, which is a whole different thing. But The players who have gotten there have put in the time to grind, and they've made it all the way up to the top, and you should reward them by having more control and freedom with the way they play the game, because that's the way they want to play it, and it allows them to focus more on the modifiers that benefit their gameplay experience. I think it would lessen a lot of frustration with top players, and just any diamond players who get frustrated by modifiers that don't do very well by them. And so that's my entire opinion on modifiers. I think they definitely could use a change. I think, like I said at the beginning, Supercell is not capitalizing on the potential that modifiers have. I think they're a fantastic addition. They make it really, really exciting. It's always a slog to play through those first 500 trophies and not have any modifiers. It's just boring and annoying. So I love modifiers as a whole. I think they're a fantastic part of the game, and they could just do a lot more with them. So let me know in the comments what you think about modifiers. What do you think they should add? What do you think they should remove? What do you think about that? Those new options to give players an option to change, or maybe limit what modifiers are available at what trophy levels. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to drop it a like. That helps me out a lot. And subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I will see you in the next one.